You've seen Eagles all-time rosters before, but not like this. No hype picks, not just for clips. This roster is built on legacy alone. And under center, we got the quarterback, and I'm picking Donovan McNabb. He had 219 touchdowns, over 32,000 yards, a 92-49-1 record, and led the team through its most consistent run of success. He is the reason I am a Philadelphia Eagles fan. Honorable mention, Tommy Thompson. Played with a legally blind eye, won the championship back-to-back in 48 and 49. And now, you got the running back position, and I'm choosing two players, a starter and a backup. Steve Van Buren's my starter. He was a bruising back with over 5,800 yards in 12-game seasons over 8 years, 69 touchdowns, 5-time All-Pro, 2-time champion. And then you got Shady McCoy, the modern-day electrifying running back. 6,700 yards and 66 touchdowns. I don't think you could leave either one off the team. The first receiver that I'll pick is Harold Carmichael. He was a 6'8" matchup nightmare. He finished with 8,900 yards and 79 touchdowns, both Eagles records. He's definitely my top pick for the position. And you gotta go with Mike Quick for your second receiver. He had over 7,000 yards, 60 plus touchdowns. And if it wasn't for injuries, I'm sure he'd be in the Hall of Fame. And finally, another controversial pick, Tommy McDonald over Deshaun Jackson. And let me explain. In 88 games, Tommy McDonald had 5,499 yards, 1,000 less than Deshaun Jackson, who played 95 games, and had 66 touchdowns to Deshaun Jackson's 35 touchdowns. They had similar skill sets. The thing that sets them apart to me is the 66 touchdowns and the fact that he's a Hall of Famer and a champion. Shout out to Deshaun Jackson. I have his jersey somewhere in storage. He's one of my favorite Eagles. And finally, rounding out the skill positions on offense, the tight end. And if it wasn't for the fact that Zach Ertz is still in the league, he'd be a lock for the position. So we got to go with some former greats. One was from the 1960 championship team, a former MVP, finished with over 7,000 yards, 400 plus catches, and yes, my notes are there, 47 touchdowns, and he was also the chair of the NFLPA. I'm talking about Pete Retzlaff. And also in the 1940s, we had Pete Pihos, who finished with over 5,000 yards, over 300 catches, and over 49 touchdowns. I gotta give it to Pete Retzlaff, and I'll explain why. An MVP, of course, Burt Bell Award, and he is the second leading receiver in Eagles history. But shout out to Mr. Pihos himself. And now we got the unsung heroes of the offense. The offensive line, left tackle, Jason Peters, 7-time Pro Bowler. A big part of that Eagles Super Bowl run in 2017-2018. 2-time All-Pro, future Hall of Famer, and played into his 40s. And at left guard, we got Jerry Sizemore, who was a rock on that offensive line for the 70s and 80s. 155 out of 156 games started. Went to the Super Bowl in 1980. And next, we got the center. One of the most recognizable and maybe one of the greatest Eagles of all time. 193 starts, Mr. Jason Kelce himself, who said he would come back if all he had to do was run the tush push. He was integral to that Super Bowl run. And at right guard, you got Brandon Brooks. And if it wasn't for injuries, he'd probably still be playing or be on his way to Canton. He was a 3-time Pro Bowler. And he was also on that Eagles Super Bowl team. He played with agility and power, something you want to see out of your guard position, especially on the Eagles. And finally, another 3-time Pro Bowler, Mr. John Runyon, who played with the bruised or broken tailbone. I can't remember the logistics, but it was one of those. He protected Donovan McNabb and was a beast in the early 2000s. And now we move over to the defense at defensive end. Who forgets about the Minister of Defense himself, Reggie White? 121 games, 124 sacks. The all-time sack leader, a Hall of Famer, a 6-time All-Pro, and a 7-time Pro Bowler. And at that defensive tackle position, we got Fletcher Cox, who in my opinion is going to be a Hall of Famer soon. He finished with 70 sacks, most by a defensive tackle, a key part of that Super Bowl run in 2017, 2018. He was a 6-time Pro Bowler and a 1-time All-Pro. I think he's going to make the Hall of Fame. And at that next defensive tackle position, his life was tragically cut short. But in 5 years, he was a monster on the field. Mr. Jerome Brown. 29.5 sacks and a 2-time Pro Bowler. You can't forget about him. And now we have Clyde Simmons, Reggie White's running mate. He had 19 sacks in 1992, showing he can go without Reggie White by his side. He was a 2-time Pro Bowler, a 1-time All-Pro, and although not the highest sack numbers, he did have a higher peak than Trent Cole and Brandon Graham. And that middle linebacker, the last 60-minute man, played center, played linebacker, Chuck Bednarik, Concrete Charlie. I remember seeing a highlight of him hitting Frank Gifford so hard they had to stretcher him off. And he was an 8-time Pro Bowler, a 6-time first-team All-Pro, a keystone to the championship team in 1960, finished his career with 21 fumble recoveries. He is a beast, and we need him right there in the middle. Bill Bergey goes to that first outside linebacker spot. He played all 91 games in his Eagles tenure. He was a 5-time Pro Bowler, a 1-time All-Pro. He set the record for most interceptions by a linebacker. Maxie Bond goes into that other linebacker position. He was a 9-time Pro Bowler, a 2-time first-team All-Pro, set the record for most interceptions by a team, had his only career touchdown, and was known for his intensity and intelligence. When you talk about the Eagles, you talk about their defensive backs, and we're going to start with Eric Allen, who was drafted in 1988, tied for most interceptions with 34, 5 defensive touchdowns, also an Eagles record, 6-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro, and going into the Hall of Fame in 2025. In that second corner position, you have Troy Vincent. He wasn't drafted by the Eagles, but it sure felt like he was. 5-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro, 28 interceptions, and an Eagles Hall of Famer. Wes Hopkins starts at that strong safety position. He had 30 interceptions, 12 sacks, a 1-time first-team All-Pro and Pro Bowler in 1985. He played 137 games for the Eagles. And no defense is complete without Weapon X himself, Brian Dawkins. Hall of Famer in 2018, a 9-time Pro Bowler, 5-time All-Pro, first NFL player ever to have 25 sacks, 35 interceptions, and 25 forced fumbles. He finished with 37 interceptions on the Eagles, 36 forced fumbles, and 26 sacks for the Philadelphia Eagles. He finished with over 1,000 tackles. You cannot have an Eagles team without Weapon X. And now we got special teams. David Akers is our kicker, of course. 80% field goal percentage. Clutch moments. I remember the one where he kicked a field goal against the Giants in the wild card round. The only left-footed kicker I have ever seen in my life. Donnie Jones. I don't have a lot to say about him, although he did have 138 punts within the 20-yard line. And Deshaun Jackson. He's my kick returner. He's probably my 4th receiver if I have 4 receivers out there. He was electrifying. Who can forget the miracle of the Meadowlands 2? He was known for his electrifying speed, 35 touchdowns, over 6,000 yards. Probably would have had a Super Bowl and a Hall of Fame Eagles career had it not been for that buffoon Chip Kelly. And finally, at head coach, Greasy Neal. Coached the team from 1941 to 1950, a 2-time NFL champion in 1948 and 1949, and had 63 wins, the second most in franchise history. I wanted to choose Andy Reid, but I realized that he's still coaching while filming, and Dick Vermeil, although he was good in Philadelphia, took them to the Super Bowl. He is more of a Rams coach to me. He won a Super Bowl there. And that's the Eagles' all-time team for now. Do you agree or disagree? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you like this video and other NFL analysis, like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next video. This is Hill Time Sports.